All right, we are live here on the PokerNews Podcast with 2019 World Series of Poker Player of the Year. It is official. Robert Campbell, congratulations. It was a pretty wild finish for you.
Well, thanks, Chad. Yep, it definitely was a wild finish, but just at the end got the W, so you can't complain about that.
Sarah Herring, who just went on maternity leave, prior on an episode, she talked to Negreanu, she talked to Shaun Deeb about the wild finish. Obviously, those two are kind of bitter rivals. They kind of fire shots back and forth. Meanwhile, you kind of get to be above the fray because you are the Player of the Year. What was it like to, I guess, did you get a phone call? Did you get an email? How did you find out about this error that happened and that you were actually the winner?
Well, I was, a lot of people, I guess they must have been reading the Twitter that day, and they just started all really messaging me a lot. And then I was getting a lot of messages, like more messages than I'd ever received at a single time. And then I got a whole World Series of Poker message me, and Seth was like, yo, we didn't say yo, but he was like, call me. And so I called him on the phone, and yeah, he said, look, I'm really sorry about this, that how it's come down like this, but yes, that is true. You've won. And all I wanted to know was, are you sure? Like, it sounds so crazy, right? And he was like, yeah, we're really sure. Like, it's 50-1, that any event, it could only ever happen with online events, he said, and it was 51 that it even happened this time. So yeah, it was really, really crazy stuff.
What was your initial reaction? Obviously, you had to be excited, but were you like, and did you think there was any chance that they were messing around with you or anything like that? It had to have been just a complete shock.
Yeah, my initial reaction was definitely like, are you sure? It was like, concern was actually my first reaction. I certainly wasn't excited, I wanted to know 100%. That was how I felt.
We saw Daniel Negreanu had his vlogs throughout the WSOP Europe, and you were in quite a few of them. It looks like you guys had a pretty good relationship as far as, a friendly competition. Did Negreanu contact you at all after you were named the POY and I don't know, concede or congratulate you, anything like that?
Oh, he did he retweeted. No, he liked my tweet, and yeah, that was nice of him.
And there was one thing he harped on was there was a PLO event, I think it was, that he was going to double dip. He was in one tournament, he was going to double dip because it made sense for the Player of the Year points. Said that you weren't aware of that, and he came over and informed you he was going to do it, and that you should too. In his words, he didn't want to win Player of the Year in any kind of unfair way. Do you remember him doing that? And what was your reaction to him coming over there and kind of saying, I want you to do this too, so I don't get a leg up on you?
I was standing next to Cale Burns. It was on the break of the 8 game, yeah, and we were talking about stuff. And Daniel came over and said, "Hey, everyone's playing it. You should play it." I was standing there anyway. I just went and jumped in after he said that. Yeah, that's what happened. We were just standing there.
You're down in Australia right now. It is, I guess, kind of early morning there right now, right?
No, it's 1 o'clock. Let me have a look. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
You're getting ready to play at the WSOP Circuit that's in Sydney?
Yeah, WSOP Sydney it's well underway. I think it's into its second or third week now. Main event is day 1C is tomorrow. Day 1D Friday is day 1D is Friday. So yep, bit of Colossus flashbacks, multiple day ones. Very exciting.
How many bullets did you fire in that WSOP Europe Colossus? Like an insane amount?
Oh, well, not really. I played, there was 9 flights overall, I think, yeah? 9 flights?
Yeah, 9 flights.
I played 8 flights. I think I might have played 11 or 12. I definitely have it written down somewhere. I'd say, yeah, 11 or 12.
In Australia, you mentioned before we came on air that they're going to do some sort of presentation for you.
They're doing it. It's quite exciting. I've been informed that they're going to have a presentation. I'm going to be able to say shuffle up and deal. I don't know if that's a surprise. Maybe I'm ruining that for everybody. And they also said I'm going to have a cake, which is pretty good. Sweet. I don't know how many other people have cakes. I mean, if Shaun knew there was going to be a cake, he must be really upset.
Well, what kind of cake do you like? Are you a chocolate cake kind of guy? You like the...
I used to be actually a really big cheesecake guy. I was a big fan of cheesecakes. Chocolate mousse is good. Sometimes the chocolate, just straight chocolate. I hate those like really lame cakes with all the cream in the middle. They give me the shits. Lemon meringue is good. I do like a lot of cakes. At my Player of the Year party, my dad bought a whole bunch of pavlovas, and when he was supposed to be giving me my slice of pavlova, my Uncle Kevin came in and he got a slice of pavlova, and then my dad was like losing track of who he was giving the slices to, and then he gave one to my cousin, and then I didn't even get a slice. So the last time I was supposed to have a cake, which is only 4 days ago, I didn't get any. So I'm looking to make up for that on Friday. And should some Australian poker player like maybe Billy the Croc or Gary Benson try and steal my slice of cake, then I'm not going to let that happen.
Tell me a little more about this party that your family threw for you. Was it to celebrate the Player of the Year?
Yep, my dad said we're going to have a party on my house. We're going to have it on a Sunday because I don't want it to get too out of hand. He said he was going to get some entertainment, food trucks, lots of meat, lots of booze. Invite everyone he knew. I said, no problem, Dad. I'll put up the money for it. And I got there. It was really, really good. It was really good. There was no entertainment. There was no food trucks. There was mostly, it was good, but it was a raining day. The day was raining. So it was always going to be hard, when you got a lot of little kids running around inside. And, it was good. I still had a good time.
Lots of booze.
It wasn't like, it wasn't the kind of party you'd expect Brendan Kenny to throw. This was toddler friendly. There were toys on the floor. Wasn't like a nightclub sort of extravaganza. But there was a lot of meat there. There was actually 2 tomahawk steaks left over at the end, 24 untouched lamb chops, a lot of food because, when people don't come, you end up with a lot of food left over.
I believe the big booze down there in Australia is Bundaberg. Some Bundaberg rum, right?
Well, we didn't have any of that. It's news to me. Well researched information.
I've been to Australia.
In your defence, Bundaberg rum is very popular in Queensland.
Yeah, I've been to Australia a few times. I'm a fan of rum, so I've brought back a bottle or 2 of Bundaberg.
Oh, really?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, in my state, it's Victoria Bitters, very popular. Carlton Draft, Pure Blonde. Pure Blonde is like, the low carb beer. That's what we call it, blonde. Low carbs is blonde, whereas I think you guys call it light, right?
Yeah, like Miller Lite, Bud Light, yeah.
In Australia, light beer means like 3%, 2.5-3% alcohol. So blonde means the low carb. So, that's an interesting nugget of information for you people at home.
Well, we've talked about cake, we've talked about beer and rum. Let's talk a little bit more about the Player of the Year because I know that's why a lot of people are tuning in. What did you make of?
Really?
Yeah. What did you make of the whole Negreanu Deeb feud after the fact? After this error was discovered, where Deeb was calling Negreanu, more or less a cheater, saying that he probably knew about this error. You have any opinions on that?
I think Shaun he just sort of. I mean, he didn't really say. Yeah, he sort of said at the very start. He sort of just exploded, right? He just went. Bleh. I mean, he sort of just says stuff. Especially, they're always going to say stuff to each other. I mean, there's no surprises there. It's just what they get up to, and it's a good opportunity for them to generate some interest for each other.
Do you feel that that overshadowed your Player of the Year win? I mean, there were a lot of headlines in the PokerNews realm, not PokerNews per se, that mentioned, more focused on Negreanu losing Player of the Year than you winning it. Is that something you took notice of?
Well, every headline did say Negreanu lost Player of the Year. That's what they said, yeah. And then after that, it was did Negreanu cheat? And then after that, it was like the structure needs to be changed. And I think I would have been running around at number 4, but I won. So that was good. But, you know, I'm from a small country, Chad. You can't expect people to notice you when you're from so far away. You know, we're just lucky to be there.
Well, I mean, you're going to be pretty popular coming up in January. It's Aussie Millions time. They've announced this Australian Poker Open. I feel like all eyes are going to be on Australia in January, and you know you're the reigning player there. I think you're going to get a lot of attention come January.
You reckon?
I think so.
Maybe. Look, we got Aussie Millions. That's what I'm all excited about. Like Aussie Millions is the big deal for us. And then it's going to be Chinese New Year, and then they're running the Australian Poker Open up on the Gold Coast, which is fantastic. You know, it's really good. For Australian poker that we're getting so many events now. Like, it really is. Like, we got Aussie Millions in January. We got this World Series of Poker Sydney in December. We got this WPT Gold Coast in when it is sometime. It's good to go there. Australian Poker Open is good. I mean, it's great. It's just great. And it's great that there's so many... you know, these great events, these great series, I think people are going to be really excited to go there.
Yeah, I've been to the Aus for work many times. It's one of my favorite stops. A lot of my colleagues feel the same way, and I know a lot of players do as well. You know, how long have you been playing the Aussie Millions? I know you've been playing poker a very long time. We chatted about that in the interview we did before the WSOP Europe. I mean, I assume you've been going to the Aussie Millions for the better part of a decade, if not more.
Yeah, I guess probably 15 years, 16 years, maybe 17 years, probably 7 years, something like that.
They all say the turnout for the WSOP main event is always a good indication of how big the Aussie Millions main event will be. We just had a huge WSOP main event. You think the Aussie Millions is going to be another big one, a success? Is there some enthusiasm down there in Australia about the event?
None. Dead. I think it's going to be a fizzer. Massive fizzer, Chad.
Yeah, I mean, I highly doubt it.
This morning, and he said, "You know what, Rob? I'm leaving Melbourne. I'm done. Aussie Millions is putting me off."
You know, one of the things I liked about at least the Crown, I remember playing down there, something that's very different in Australia than compared to the United States or elsewhere, is I was playing in a cash game, and I won a pot, and I threw the dealer a chip, a tip. And the dealer kind of looked at me weird and then grabbed it and tossed it back at me. Like, apparently, tipping in poker games is not a thing down there.
Well, how much was the chip worth?
It's probably $1 chip.
Yeah, see, that's insulting. $5 minimum down here. Don't be cheap, Chad.
Hey, we're not all 2-time bracelet winners, player of the year. Some of us got to work on the poker salary, poker media salaries.
You said you were playing for fun, Chad. And you're still just stiffing dealers, just $1. You said you want to be... You're on holidays. Just imagine. This bloke's on holidays. He's come from the other side of the world. He's having a great time. He's playing a soft game with a bunch of Australian recreational players. He wins a monster pot, right? He's in a Hawaiian shirt. You're probably drinking a margarita, and you throw one measly $1 chip. Of course he's going to throw it back in your face. What do you think would happen?
So what you're saying is I'm the American tourist asshole that undertips.
We didn't want to say American. We don't want to, stereotype you.
Well, I mean, I guess the dealers down there might hate me, but I love it down there. I think Aussie Millions is great, and I can assume, are you going to be playing like a full schedule down there?
Full schedule of tournaments?
Yeah. Or do you focus mainly on cash games when the Aussie Millions in town?
Cash games. I don't play tournaments, really. No.
I mean... You played a shit ton of tournaments this summer.
Like I'll be in Aussie Millions. I just play cash every day. I'll probably play. I reckon I'll play maybe 3 events.
It's
hard though, because sorry on that note. It's very hard to play both. Like, you've really got to be into one or the other because. You're waking up at different times of the day. Like, if you're waking up every day 3, 4, 5 p.m. to play cash, into the night, and then you do a few midday starts to play these, tournaments. That's it. You cooked it.
Let's talk more Australian poker. When I'm down there, I remember one thing that I actually had a hand in announcing a couple years was the Australian Poker Hall of Fame. I mean, you're a two-time bracelet winner. You have won the Player of the Year. Do you think that enshrinement in the Australian Poker Hall of Fame, be it soon or down the road, is something in the cards for you?
I don't know. Have you seen the people that are in the Hall of Fame?
I've seen a few, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I belong in the group.
I mean, there are some Australian legends there.
There's a few. There's all look. I don't know. Like, I can't talk about that. It's not for me to say. I'm just making a joke. They're all my friends. Those guys, like they do what they do. It's not for me to tell them. It's like this club,
Yeah, I mean, I think from an outsider's perspective, you certainly have the credentials now to warrant an induction. You're certainly bringing a positive light to Australian poker. We haven't seen that for a while, since Joe Hasham.
Since Joe Hasham. I mean, Jeff Lysander had a pretty good year in 2009, And I think one of those guys in the Hall of Fame came fourth in the Aussie Millions some stage in the last decade. So there's been some big results in our country.
Speaking of Jeff Lysandro in 2009, I think he won 3 bracelets that year, all in stud variants, and did not win Player of the Year. And it seems like the WSOP Player of the Year has just morphed its criteria, its scoring system so much in the past decade. Having just went through it in a very kind of controversial year, do you think that there should be some alterations to the WSOP Player of the Year going forward?
I think, Chad, he did win Player of the Year. The year he won 3 bracelets, just quietly.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm thinking of probably 2010 when Frank Casella won. I will have a look. But question would still stand. After what you had to experience this year from just all the results that counted, grinding all summer.
2010.
Let's see. 2010, I think, was... Yeah, you're right. Jeff Lysandro was Player of the Year in 2009, so my mistake and apologies to Jeff because I don't want him to rip my frickin' head off. In 2010, it was Frank Casella who won Player of the Year after he had 2 bracelet wins just like you in 2010. So.
Who did? Sorry, 2010?
Yeah, 2010, Frank Casella.
So he also won. I thought you said he got stiffed as well.
No, I was mistaken, and I do apologize for mixing those up. But, yeah, Frank in 2010, Jeff Lysandro in 2009. But, I mean, I guess... What's that?
Is that a dual apology, or are you going to do... I think you should do each one individually. I mean, Frank Casella kind of got hard done by. I mean, Jeff Lysandro got his own standalone apology, and you just tied Frank's apology onto the end of his.
Well, I mean, I know Frank. I feel like he'll forgive me. Jeff, I'm a little afraid of. He's an intimidating guy, so I want to make sure that he knows it's from my heart.
That's like a secondary insult, that he's frightening, and now Frank Casella might be like, what, am I not frightening? I mean, I'm sure Frank Casella, if you corner him in the alley, maybe he's going to get violent too, like he's frightening.
That could be. Well, I apologize to both Frank Casella and Jeff Lysandro for...
Both can be intimidating. I've seen them both raise their voices, and I've seen them both be very friendly.
Well, let's get back to the question that I posed, which is, do you think there should be some changes to the WSOP Player of the Year? We'll call it the system, whatever that may be, the scoring system, the criteria, things like that. There's been a lot of proposals out there. Negreanu, one of the more vocal ones. Just curious, what your opinion is.
My opinion on the World Series of Poker Player of the Year system?
Yeah.
You know what? I did actually give it a lot of thought. I thought about even writing up a whole thing about it. But, I didn't know it was my place to say. I think the one thing that a lot of people have overlooked, on a serious note, I'm going to try and answer one of your questions seriously, Chad.
I appreciate it.
Giving you a lot of political spin in this interview. Maybe some people like it, some people don't. I just can't help it sometimes. I think one important factor is if you do decide to do some sort of restriction, as in, I've read a couple of them and people have been like, oh, they want to have, 10 tournaments or they want to have 12 tournaments or they want to have 8 tournaments. This number, these people can come to that agreement. I think the 10 number sounds Sounds good. Excuse me. I mean, obviously, anything like that would greatly benefit a player like myself. Like a spammer, it's really good for you to have as many, and it's still advantageous to be a spammer because you get more bites at the cherry. It's basically like you're playing it. It's like you're always in action, right? So the more in action you are, the more likely you are to dash. So there's always going to be an advantage. But the situation with the min cashes in the deep buying events, that Daniel was raising so much, that actually becomes eliminated when you only have a 10 event minimum, right? Like it's very unlikely that if that smallest cash, that 50 pointer, that if you're going to win, that probably doesn't play. You'd imagine that would be the case, right? You'd have to have multiple reasonable caches. So I don't think that sort of thing. There's been a few people like they want to have a bracelet qualification. Again, on the bracelet qualification, you could say, well, we're giving like 900 to 1,000 points, sometimes even 1,100 for a bracelet. We're giving like 450, 500 for a second place. I mean, that alone is already quite a dramatic, points differential. So maybe there doesn't need to be a bracelet qualification if that's the case. The third thing I've seen is like people want to have like a return on investment sort of situation, which I think I actually saw what Shaun Deeb wrote about on Twitter, and that was pretty good. You can't really have that. It kind of just blows the whole thing up if someone cashes like the PPC or something like that. Others have said they don't think 100Ks or whatever the thingamajiggies should have. Sorry, I'm rattling through all these different things.
No, it's okay.
So people don't want to have the 100Ks in there, the 25Ks. I mean, let the peasants eat cake. If that's, I can't remember, is that how you say that quote? What is it? Let them eat cake. That's not right at all. Like they're starving. Don't give them cake. That's how you get your head chopped off. So look, not sure about that. I think you got to put all the events in there. I know they didn't put the 250K over in Europe in there, but look, the 100K. It is a little bit unreachable but maybe that's all right. That's an okay thing. You could do. What was the one I lost my train of thought? The one key thing I think you've got to do, though, is if you do decide it's 10 or you do decide it's 12, I think at least two of the events, two of your points must be scored in Europe. Because you do need to encourage the World Series of Poker Europe. And I also think that if there was going to be a third one, like, let's say, World Series of Poker Asia Pacific, you could have like 8 in Las Vegas, 2 in Rosvadov, and 2 in, usually it was in Melbourne. And that encourages people to travel the whole circuit.
Right.
They want to win. Now, there's also been talk that there'd be like a separate one. They'd have like a high roller just for all the $10,000 events player of the year, which sounds pretty cool. And then a separate small roller. But to be honest, look, they can't even get sponsorship and media attention to the main one. So how can you start having these subsidiaries? I mean, you've got to package it in something that's palatable for a potential sponsor. That way, you can have a prize and you can generate more interest, which is what it is. It should become a product, not to get all marketing and brandy on you. But I do think that that's what you want. That's the direction you want to be heading. If you want to legitimize the contest, you've got to encourage it to be a bit of a competition that's pursued, and that means it needs a prize, and it also needs to enhance the World Series of Poker brand. So that's why it needs to have... I mean, you can't have the winner or the leaders not going to Europe. That's not what the World Series of Poker will want. They need it to, go on just the same as what, like... And I think, Kerry Katz's... APO and the golden and that purple jacket thing, that's what it's doing. It's doing really good. It's like a thing that it's just a filler. Like whenever they're not talking about a tournament, they can just crap on about the point standings. It's just a constant brand generator. And
Sure.
They can put that man in that purple jacket on their Twitter and he can be like, purple jacket. It's really good. And I think that's the World Series of Poker could do more of that. I'm not saying they need to put me in a car driving around like Phil Hellmuth and like wear a feather duster on my head as I enter the Rio. But did he do that? Feather duster? What was the one he dressed up as Julius Caesar?
Yeah, it was Caesar. Caesar. He was a race car driver. He was a Thor from Marvel Comics. He's has some shtick. General Patton 1 year.
All just General Patton. Yeah, okay. Look, things like that. I think that's the direction I'd want to head in if I was them. I want to condense it. I want to make it a really well covered race. I want there to be some kind of prize, but I don't know if this is possible. I mean, they have to engage. It's hard for us also. Like they're asking us players this and that. What should we do? What do we do? It's what kind of package, what kind of product can they sell for someone to sponsor? That's the question, really. We can come up with all the ideas in the world. Like, some genius might say, like, oh, the NFL season should be 24 games, and someone's like, well, no one's going to buy that, or someone is going to buy it. That's what it comes down to, So it's not, we're just a bunch of poker players.
Well, let me ask you one final question before I let you go. Last year, when Shaun Deeb won, he said he was going to come back and try to go back-to-back, and nearly did. Do you have any ambition to try to win Player of the Year again in 2020?
Yeah, well, look, I'll just be coming out and playing my tournaments. I'm not going to be a spammer. I just play my tournaments, and, maybe I get lucky again. But, look, I never thought I was going to win one bracelet in my whole life, and I thought I'd be lucky to do that. And then somehow I just won 2 in 1 year. So, I mean, yeah, I'll still be playing on Lens though, Chad. And also I spent a lot of time on No Limit Hold'em in the lead up to Rosvedov. So, look, saying that I won't be trying, that's not true. Like, I'll definitely be playing, as in, maybe I don't play as many tournaments as I played this year. But I'll be, as in my original schedule, will entail a far more amount of No Limit Hold'em. Because I feel very happy playing the game. Like, I always felt comfortable playing, but now I like it because I've spent a lot more time on it. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So I'm pretty excited to play No Limit Hold'em tournaments, and that's why I'm up here in Sydney. And we've got a lot of good tournaments to play. A lot of good tournaments. Very exciting. Going to be really good times. Also, I'm going to have myself made. I'm going to have a World Series of Poker Player of the Year ring made. I'm going to have that commissioned by the guys that make the NBA championship rings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you've got to. I was looking into it. It costs about $10,000, but it's a. You got to do these things for yourself, Chad. When you have an achievement that you're very proud of. I mean, I don't have a child. So I'm not into that whole thing where you buy a dog and you say you've got a fur child. I mean, that's not for me. If I'm going to have a child, it's going to be a human baby. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or girl. I'm not sexist. Just not a fur child. A human.
Well,
that grows up into an adult. One of those.
If the circuit is in town in Sydney, all you have to do is win an event and you'll get a ring. That's what they give away on the circuit. Yeah,
I know, but my ring will be better than that.
All right. Well,
no offense to that, I've got myself an Aussie Millions ring. I don't know if people know that. That I've won an Aussie Millions ring back in the day. Andy, who did I beat heads up? Jan Sachanek, actually. I beat Jan Sachanek heads up. And also Matthew Ashton.
Yeah.
If you guys heard the story about when I beat Matthew Ashton three-handed, one of the world's best game players, but I remember he was putting the chips in. Have you ever seen him play poker? He drops the chips in like this? No. Like he's punishing them, He wants them to impact with the felt. And I was watching him and I was like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, is he not played much live poker? And I said to Jan on the break, I said, isn't it great this? Because, he's really slow acting and his mouth is always open when he's doing something, how Tom Dwan kind of made that cool in the mid 2000s, this, he's waiting, what's he waiting for? Like his mum to put a spoonful of mashed potato in there or something. And so he's doing that. And I said to Jan, isn't it great? And he wasn't talking. He's just a mute. Not that means anything, but he was a mute, mouth open. He's dropping chips in a bizarre fashion. I assumed he had a disability. Maybe I'm mean. But I said to Jan, isn't this nice that a guy like this has made it this far in this tournament? You know, a 2,500 game, it's pretty hard. You know, like, I'm not saying it's impossible, but that's what I thought. And and then he busted out doing something bizarre, and then I found out 6 months later he was Matthew Ashton. And I told him, I go, wow, man, I thought you had some sort of, minor physical impediment. But he said, no, that's just how I play poker. And I was like, wow, that's why. And he said, yeah. But anyway, so just want to give myself a bit of a plug, Chad, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
I've got a podcast. I've made a podcast with Angus O'Loughlin. You might have seen it on my Twitter. He's a pretty cool dude. He's big in the Australian breakfast radio scene. And we're doing it. It's called Podker, Podker. It's with me and him once a week, about 20, 30 minutes. Aimed at people who would just sort of enjoying poker. Maybe they're playing for money, maybe they're not. Maybe they're playing for really small stakes. Where the vast majority of people are. Like those kids in college, that sort of guy. Or the guy playing down at the pub. I don't know if you call it pub. What do you call it? Like the place where you go to drink beer?
Yeah, we call it a bar.
Bar. Yeah, sit down at the bar. If you want to go down there and play at the bar, well, my podcast would be a great idea for you. That sort of thing. So, get on down, have a listen. Let me know what you think on Twitter. If you hate me, just say it. Just say you fuck suck.
All right. Well, Robert, congratulations on winning the 2019 WSOP POY. If people want to follow you on Twitter, it is at SonicJax 2019. That is JAXX. So at SonicJax 2019. And once again, the podcast.
Instagram. I've got Instagram too. I've got all social media. I'm real serious about social media. I love it.
Is it the same? Is it the same on Instagram?
No, it's Aussie Rob _poker. How you like that branding? Australian and poker. I didn't come with that on my own.
And then, of course, check out the Podker. Podker, the Podker podcast.
Podker, Chad. It's been a pleasure. That's what you say to me, Chad. You say it's been a pleasure.
The pleasure has been all mine.
That's right, it has been.
All right, man. Congratulations.
Great. Thanks, man.